Shalom, Israelite. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Israelites, we back at it again. Alright, Israelites. You know, I was talking about teaching and, the last video, I think, Sister Near Yah, was with me and we was explaining, what an Israelite should be teaching, the women and so forth, how it should be truth. Alright, what should an Israelite teach? I think number one, what an Israelite should teach is the love of Yah only. Worship Him only. That should be the first thing. And the Tanakh lay the foundation for that. How Almighty Yah was introduced into our father's life, our father Abraham's life. We go all the way back to Adam and really the covenant that the Creator made with Prophet Noah, but us directly, that the Creator had a direct relationship with us Israelites, from our father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who name he changed to Israel, is how we got our name. That's how we are blessed people, and that's why everybody want that Israelite title, because they know that Israelite name come from the Creator, come from Almighty Yah. So everybody gonna want a part of that and want to be recognized, as being a part of that. Alright, what should an Israelite teach? Man, I think an Israelite should teach the love of Yah only. We got control of Yah worship. Yah worship is in our hands. You don't see nobody else around the world. None of the other ethnic groups, even the Jewish community, they be using other names for Almighty Yah. But how we promote Yah worship, it said that we would be called by His name. So we promote Yah worship, and it's in our control, and we got control of it. So we want to do it right. We want to do it right. We want to do it right, and you want to be hard and not fanatical about it, but just real serious and real, real stern with the love of Yah and Yah worship, and how you won't put nothing on this earth, man, before it. And then I think that Israelites should teach our last act. Our last act that they got us driven off the land into Africa, into bondage. We have to focus on that. A lot of Israelites use a lot of history and talk about a lot of things, but they don't get to what got us in this trouble. They try to blame it on her Edomite temple being destroyed by the Romans, and then we just run off the land and then end up getting enslaved, and all some old stupid history, the history that don't even belong to us. And that's another thing, that Israelites got to teach, that other people have our heritage and got a history. Look, learn others had our heritage. That's number 6. I could have made a long list, but I think this is basic. Israelites need to learn others had our history, and then why they had our history, our title, they created a history. They have a history. They've been in lands, and then they've been under the Israelite title for a long time. Longer than we have. Man, this people been had our name longer than we had it. Longer than it belongs to us, and it's easily for us to get it and claim it back. But it's groups that we abandon our heritage to. Man, so many peoples that claim an Israelite heritage and title, and you'll see that in other lands, and a lot of those peoples, they got the Israelite titles in other lands come from conversions, but nevertheless they got an Israelite title. You know, we have to learn that they have history and that they develop a history under that title. So Israelites got to be real careful and choosy about the history and the beliefs that they accept from those histories. Man, you got Israelites, man, especially in the camps. Man, you got Israelites, man, that'll pick a book up and read about some folks with an Israelite title, and then they'll have a little pigmentation. And I'm going to go into something real serious, too, that I want you Israelites to know the differences. You know, if you know the differences between these two groups, then you can kind of like navigate your way through the Israelite heritage, man, a little easy, especially with the history. I'm going to go into it in a minute. But, man, there's folks that had our heritage in other lands, and they developed, and then they converted to our heritage under the pretense of the religion Judaism, which gives the peoples in foreign lands a Israelite title. Man, I'm talking about people in all in India and China, and man, I show man, I got videos, you know, showing all the different ethnic groups in Africa, and these folks got a Israelite title right now today that's undisturbed. They go back hundreds of years, some of them thousands of years. You know, we abandoned our heritage during the Babylonian Wars when we said that we don't want nothing to do with the culture that the Creator gave us and how we wanted Egyptian Hamite culture. You know, that's what caused our enslavement. You know, so, but Israelites have to learn others had our heritage, and they created a history. That they got a history of our heritage. And how can you know the differences between our history and their history? Easy, real easy, easy. You see this right here? The Tanakh. This is what we're responsible for. All of it. We didn't they been in the Jewish community hand, but they was wise enough to leave what we recorded and what we put together, the original history. From Genesis to Malachi, we're responsible for that, and that's our history. And they was wise enough, man, to just keep translating it. You know, they translated, but the original story is there. You know, it's like the story about Joseph in Egypt, or the story about uh, uh, Prophet Abraham and Isaac, or the history about us being in Egypt and our father Israel history and what he did. We put all that together. We're responsible for all that, the original recordings of the Israelite history we're responsible for. But we're not responsible for anything outside that. And Israelites read books. Man, they'll get a hold to a book, man, that mention the Tanakh, but its story is based upon something else, and they believe that that was us that the history is talking about. And what we have to realize, you know, that we broke covenant and abandoned the heritage in the land and went into Africa. So you're not going to find no Israelites, man, around, you know what I'm saying, the real Israelites doing the covenant or have anything associated with the covenant. We only wake up, man, to that we the Israelites is because we in the strange land that meant to not say we will be in, the blessings and the curses, and then we understand, you know, men of little Tanakh history. You know, the Bible been with us even up under the indoctrination of Christianity. and how they had us looking at Israelite history through Christianity, through the broken covenant, one of the broken covenants. Broken religions created off our broken covenant. Christianity is one of them. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam come off our broken covenant, and how they had us looking at our history through one of the broken covenant, through one of the religions that was created off our broken covenant, and that'd be Christianity. So when Israelites look at Israelite history through Christianity, man, they ain't gonna see no truth. They ain't gonna see themselves in no kind of way. And then the folks, been taking advantage of that we've been out of heritage for a long time, but us over here in captivity is waking up, like I say, because the New not the New Testament, the Bible been with us. The Tanakh that they call the Old Testament, not the New Testament, but that we have learned who we are by reading it and understanding those curses and understanding that ain't no people on the face of this earth been through the curses identical that Prophet Moses say what happened to the Israelites for breaking covenant. And then we have took it a step farther by tracing the Israelites steps, that the Israelite steps from the promised land, into Africa. The Israelite brotherhood is, men responsible, what I'm saying, for that. All right. Now, what an Israelite men should be teaching, like I say, love Yah only, worship Him only. All right. We broke covenant for Egyptian religions. Now that's our last act. You have to teach what we did to get kicked off the land. And that'll be the book of Jeremiah. When you get to chapter 44, it breaks it all down. Really, chapter 42, 43, and 44. It shows you that how the Babylonians, when they was at us, were really Ashkenazi, the Scythians, the Chaldeans, when they was after us for Egyptian religion. The Creator sent them and told them to, to get us up off the land. That we Israelites went into Africa, man, to do the Egyptian religion, breaking covenant, and Israelites have to know this, and that's the most important thing, man, besides worshiping Almighty Yah, is to know that we broke the covenant for Egyptian religion in the book of Jeremiah, our last act on the promised land. And then to know that, number 3, no lost tribes during Assyrian times. Man, if an Israelite read 2 Chronicles 30, King Hezekiah's history, and his great grandson King Josiah's history, it's easily, man, to see that it, wasn't no 10 lost tribes, or that the Israelites was taken to some strange far off land. I showed that we had a collaboration with the Assyrians, and that the history that we have been fed, the world been fed about the Assyrian troubles that we had is false, and that I got a video called the Assyrian Manasseh race war. Man, I showed that Assyria was basically fighting for its life after having Ashkenazi and all the Scythians and the Cimmerians and all those folks in this nation in Assyria. You know, in Assyria, you know what I'm saying, which would be about right here, and how that they had all the folks in all these places in their land, and that's when Prophet Jonah went there to tell them to get right and stop all that stuff, and then they kept the wickedness going on, and then that's when Prophet Nahum told Nineveh that it was over, the Syria capital. So you would have the Syrians on the run, knowing that they had a collaboration with the Israelites, and we could tell them, hey, if that prophet say this, that the 9 out of 10 is going to come to pass. So the Syrians was basically fighting for their life after their interaction with us. And then how that they went and took 3 tribes, the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, who would be stationed throughout the other tribes since they was the fighters, and then they took them to help fight, the Scythians, Ashkenazi, and so forth, and then they was defeated in 612 BCE. The Assyrian Empire was wiped out, and them Israelites, come home because they had come home in before then because Assyria had went and set up the Saite kings, and I think it was 697 or 690 something BCE, when Assyria was basically trying to get past Judah, the last Yah worshippers. The Egyptians had defeated us long time ago. I got videos showing that how the Egyptians, played major tricks with us, because they had to do trade on the other side of the promised land. They had to do trade on the other side of the promised land, and you being a Yah worshiper, a one creator worshiper, they didn't like that because they had multiple gods, the fallen angelic serpents and all that they worship, and then they wanted to connect with the other serpent worshiper and multiple god worshippers here. But we Israelites followed the covenant, was blocking them. They didn't have airplanes and they didn't have boats to sail around. They had to get through this way through our territory. And we was Yah worshippers, the tribe of Judah, the last holdout, before they was corrupted by the Egyptians, and then we all went into Africa. But that the Assyrians, had a hard time getting into Africa and getting past the tribe of Judah. And that's, basically what it was about, that the Assyrians was trying to hook up with the other multiple god worshippers in their last days, and they was destroyed by Ashkenaz. And the prophet Nahum called for Ashkenazi to get the Assyrians and so forth, and that'd be Ashkenazi code name in history is Scythians, and you see that they made up the Chaldean nation and the Babylonian nation. They try to just say that they collaborated with the destruction of Assyria, but I got history showing that the Scythians, Ashkenazi, took over Chaldea long ago, and those are the Sebhars, the Sebharims. Now, this is what I want to talk about, since I'm talking about this subject, the differences, between Ashkenazi and the Sebhardis. Most Israelites don't know. Look, when they think of slavery, well, who enslaved us and who took, the initiative in Africa, meant to get us. And look here, easily to show. And look, the Nation of Islam put out this book called The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, right? All right. Now, me being first, that's why I say that you got to know, you got to know who we abandon our heritage to. You got to know who we abandon our heritage to, and because others had our heritage. And when you learn that, man, you'll start to see how business was conducted during the slavery days. And I'm here to tell you, Israelites, that the number one people who dominated the slave trade and brought us over here and who knew who we were the Sebhars, man, the Edomites. These folks right here, they the ones that brought us on these ships. They was merchants. And people say, well, what happened to the slave ships? Man, they turned the slave ships, man, into merchant ships, cargo ships, back into slave ships, back into merchant ships. Man, you know what I'm saying? They didn't stop using the ships because they had slaves on them. They was carrying products before then all around the world. It's just when slavery become profitable, then they converted the slave ships over to housing slaves. And then when that become unprofitable, they changed the ships back to merchant ships carrying other products. All right, these folks right here, responsible for the transatlantic slave trade. Single-handedly responsible for the transatlantic slave trade. Now, when the Nation of Islam was recording and doing their research, they didn't know the difference. They looking at all Jews the same. Terrible mistake. Terrible mistake. They are not the same, and they don't function the same. Ashkenazi basically been in war with the Sephardics over our heritage, man, since biblical. That's what all the troubles in the West and in the world basically break it down in its origin is these two been fighting over the Israelite title since we abandoned it. You know, these chased us out. These got in our heritage by deception so many ways and so many times. And then that's why it was easy for them to participate in the transatlantic slave trade, knowing that we was out of heritage and then how slick they is being Babylonian scribes and controllers of the whole Babylonian system dealing with slaves way back then. They seized that opportunity and got us in Africa, and then made sure when they brung us over here to the Americas that we got brainwashed, or well, not brainwashed, but indoctrinated terribly to the lowest degree to try to make sure that we didn't come back into our Israelite heritage. Now look here, y'all see Aaron Lopez? Now the average Israelite will say, that's a white man, that's a Caucasian, that's a Caucasian. No, that's a Sephardi. That's a Sephardi. You know, they painted him a little white, but that's Aaron Lopez. Aaron Lopez is, man, his ships brought a great percentage man of our ancestors here. But look here, when you get to the Nation of Islam research, oh man, they did the thing and don't even know how they helped us. That the majority, if not all, of the slave owners' name and slave owners, man, is gonna be the Spanish Jews. You know why them Israelites crazy and they lost their mind seeing that the Hispanics are Israelites and so forth. They don't know that the Sephardists, the Sephardim, and all those from Spain are the ones that came into Africa, man, and got us. And look at their names. Look at the names, man. When you look at Ashkenazi name, Ashkenazi gonna have Stein and Goldstein and names like that. The little bitch and names like that. But these names with that Spanish origin, the names with that Spanish origin, man, for these folks, man, is gonna be the Sephardim. the Sephardists. Men is gonna be the Sephardists, the ones with the Spanish names. You see, that ain't Stein and Goldstein and the German names, but the ones with the Spanish names gonna be the Sephardim and the Sephardists. Those are the ones that's responsible for slavery in all South America and so forth. And then it's recorded how the European Jews come over in the 1800s and so forth, after slavery was already institutions, and the folks profited off of us for a long time. And then Israelites be real confused because they say, oh, black folks held us in captivity. Black folks held us in captivity. They don't know that they had a lot of pigmented, dark pigmented Sephardim, Sephardists that came from Spain, to the Americas and so forth, that held, us in forced labor, held us in forced labor. And Israelites be thinking that uh, uh, that that's us, and we was in Spain, and we did good in Spain until the Catholic Church, and then we went all everywhere, and then they enslaved us. Stupid history, not knowing the truth. And the camps push a lot of that doctrine. It's a lot of Israelites push that we was in Spain under an Israelite title, creating Israelite history and so forth, and that how we collaborate with all false history. That's gonna be these folks right here. And those are the Edomites. Uh, uh, that left in 70 AD when her Edomite temple was destroyed, and then they went across North Africa and into Africa, and then they converted. Hamites. The Ickaboos are responsible for the transatlantic slave trade. Ain't nobody talking about that. How did they bring us to the coasts and so forth, and soldiers. But look here, man, if you look at all these names, look, the Spanish Inquisition and all these, man, Ashkenazi hadn't reached these parts, and all these parts was controlled by the Sephardists. All of them, the Edomites, all of them was controlled by them. All these lands in South America, all these islands, and then they got took from them later on. But they the ones that, got it in on us. Look at them names. You see that Lopez, that Gomez, that Diaz, and so forth. Them the ones from Spain. That's gonna be these folks. And it makes sense that they would be pigmented folks going into Africa, man, to get us, and how no non-pigmented folks back then couldn't just be all over in the interior Africa kidnapping folks and so forth. So, when you Israelites start to wake up and understand what's really going on, then we gonna be ready. But and that's what Almighty Yah want us to be ready when we go home. We don't want to go home to try to figure this out and try to figure them folks out, cause then it'll kind of like be too late. They can come with some more tricks. They got a lot of Israelites tricked up with they false history. Israelites read them folks' history, and they done wrote a lot of books since we've been out of heritage. All the books outside the Tanakh, they gonna be basically responsible for, man, unless it's like in the 11th century and so forth, when Ashkenazi start really writing and getting his in, under the Israelite title. But these folks, man, they been writing books, all those apocryphal books and all those books that was rejected by the Catholic Church. they responsible for. And the Israelites would think that those books are holy. Well, our holiness kind of like rubbed off on them a little bit because they been in our heritage since Exodus. So they gonna know what's right and what's wrong. You know, you could prophesize the destruction of anything that's wrong and that's not right. You know, and then them having control, man, of our scriptures and our heritage, reading them and studying them for thousands of years, then they go create they false prophecies and so forth, and that's them apocryphal books that the Israelites be believing in. I'm finna start breaking them down. I'm starting to come at them now, and I'm gonna break them down, man, so Israelites, know that we only got Tanakh history. We only got Tanakh history. All right, Israelites. Now look here, demigod worship. You know, Israelite, shouldn't be teaching demigod worship. You know, the whole God Son concept was a bad thing while we was under the covenant in the land worshiping Almighty Yah. So how is it gonna be a good thing after? You know, that's like when Almighty Yah called individuals his sons. I got a video talking about, the sons as in how it was a term of endurement and so forth when you run across it. And Ephraim, it even say, was Almighty Yah firstborn. All right, so that God's son concept gonna come from the foreigners and the Canaanites that we didn't destroy, that eventually come up under the Israelite title, and how that they will still push their religion and culture, but disguised as Israelite history. And then that's what you get in the New Testament. I show Israelites all the time how the people settled in our land after we broke covenant. No Israelites tried to explain Scythopolis and what is Scythopolis and who settled in Scythopolis and what does that mean. No Israelites ever tried to understand Scythopolis and who settled there and so forth. And history showed that Ashkenazi settled after the Babylonian War. So if they settled in our land and that eventually they're going to take on our heritage if we ain't there and we abandon it, and then so they been there. So when Israelites read New Testament history, they not even taking into consideration whether these folks was there. And they don't even have no knowledge of these folks, the Israelite community. That's why I say it ain't good to teach. Man, unless you got some real knowledge and you know some real history, and you have to know this because this is what happened. This is a part of our heritage. This is a part of our history. It's understanding that Ashkenazi, the Scythians settled in Scythopolis, and Scythopolis was the head of the Discopolis cities. This is during Jesus' time. Did Jesus have them as members? Yes, they are responsible for the synagogues, all synagogues. The Edomites held the temple, but all synagogues gonna fall up under Ashkenazi control. That's Ashkenazi institution with his religious worship of the Israelite heritage and how he, do his worship, and where he do it from. He do it from the synagogues. And the synagogues are Ashkenazi creation, and they was in the New Testament. Now, why was it a temple and then they having synagogues or place of schoolings and so forth? Because it was two different peoples controlling the Israelite heritage, or fighting for the Israelite heritage, or trying to to control the Israelite heritage after we left, after we went into Africa. And then there's none other than these groups. So you Israelites, whenever you teach, man, you got to teach this. You got to teach everything associated with this, or you ain't teaching the truth. You're going to be teaching their history. Now, everybody that now subscribe and that's been with the Israelite Brotherhood for a while, man, I know that they teaching real Israelite history because they understand the differences between these two groups and that they have a history. And that they have a history. You know, that's like me showing that slavery history. Man, that's these folks' history. And Ashkenazi history gonna come in associated with that was when the products was made. When the products was made and so forth, and then they were sent to the European market. Ashkenazi, you know, got his in like that. You know, man, he got his in like that. But the actual bringing us from you know, Africa, where we ran to during the Babylonian wars, trying to hide, and that how, you know, we couldn't hide because the peoples, you know, knew where we were and knew that we had abandoned the covenant because it's in the Tanakh. They knew it. They knew it. So it wasn't nothing to go get us and then transport us, man, to slavery. And then we already out of heritage during the Babylonian War, so it wouldn't be nothing to put another layer on top of that. And that's what they did on the plantation when they started calling us all these names and then creating false history for us that is associated with them names. All this is to keep us out of our Israelite heritage that we would eventually wake up to one day. But them folks, they been tricking us a long time. They're responsible for the slavery trade. They're responsible for the educational system in America. They're responsible for. Yes, they took the system over and control it now, but it was once in these folks' hands for a long time. People don't know that 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 they change powers. That when they power get weak, they'll go to another land. But the system that's set up under the Jewish title, Ashkenazi can merge into it and control it and take over. And then that's what happened. That's like this. People don't know that it's friction, man, between them two groups because they've been trying to control the Israelite heritage. Look, the Sephardic idea has always been understood in terms of political moderation and community unity. Rarely did Sephardim lose their internal cohesion, that is, until the process of cultural erosion set in, following the Ashkenazi lead. See, when Ashkenazi come, man, the Sephardists milk the system already, and they kind of like getting the last part of it, but they can get in because they share the Jewish title, the Israelite title, and so forth, and the religions that they created worship and serve them. Look, all right, that is until the process of cultural erosion set in following the Ashkenazi lead. Sephardim abandoned their traditional culture and adapted to the fractious Ashkenazi model under the rubric of a single Jewish nation. The Sephardic particularity with its cultural genius and sophisticated social morals has become a lost value. The Ashkenazi culture, with this deeply unsettled relationship to the larger world, has now become the Jewish standard. That's because Ashkenazi gonna have to open the door when it's time for us to come home, and how we know for sure that the except Hardys ain't, because they're responsible for all the stuff that done hurted us and done kept us down. And they don't want us to ever come into heritage. They do not want us to come into heritage, but it's too late now. We are already in the heritage. We're just waiting on Almighty Yah to open the door, man, so we can come on home. All right, look. No going into Africa. Look, all right, let me do this over again. Look, number one, love Yah only. Worship him only. Number two, we broke covenant for Egyptian religion. That's what the book of Jeremiah is about. That's our last act on the promised land. The little exiles that come back from Babylon, they was ran out the land because the Egyptian religion that we wanted to do on the land. The same act, but they was destroyed upon return. So, we broke a covenant for Egyptian religions. All right. No lost tribes during Assyrian times. It's easy. I tell you, 2nd Chronicles 30 and 2nd Chronicles 34, you still see the tribes around, and this is after the so-called Assyrian captivity. King Hezekiah history and King Josiah's history. All right. Number 4, no demigod worship or believing. Man, you can't believe in nothing but Almighty Yah as an Israelite, and if you believe in any other gods or God's sons and so forth, that you've been defeated, or you still in a mental captivity because you are using the history of the people that we abandon our heritage to. They are God's son worshippers, and everything outside the Tanakh history is gonna be their history, and it's vast, and Israelites thought that our history was continuous, not knowing that we went into Africa during the Babylonian wars and was captured in Africa out of heritage, not knowing that we was the Israelites. Look, no going into Africa in 70 AD. We didn't go into Africa in 70 AD. That leads to the people that enslaved us, that went to Spain, and that lead to the Edomites and so forth, and that how we didn't go into Africa in 70 AD pre-exposed to Greek culture for hundreds of years and so forth, and that none of the Greek culture and Roman culture was found on us when we was kidnapped from the Hamite lands. Look, in number 6, I think it's the most important thing men to teach the Israelites is learn others had our heritage and been using our titles and been creating history under that title. So when you go pick that book up and read it, and then you start thinking that that's Israelite history, you don't know that you're reading about the people's history that we abandoned our heritage to, and they got some fantastic history that peoples call holy or think that is holy. Those apocryphal books. They all come from the Edomites. All right, Israelites, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.